to your home, cars, wherever you at, to share some really important concepts about money, we say about life and everything else, especially business ideas. So tonight's topic is great because tonight's topic is about you having a plan. You know, let's talk money with friends. From the get-go, from the beginning, we said that it's so important that you have a plan, because without a plan, you won't know where you're going. So I'm excited because tonight we're gonna be speaking specifically about having a SMART plan. And all my friends who are on are gonna be helping me with the definition, with helping you understanding what does it really take to have a SMART plan, because a SMART plan matters. So without further ado, I want to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. Some of them you've seen. I have a new friend here. Well, I was just introduced to her yesterday, and I'm so excited that she's able to be on the show. So why don't we start with Sam, and then we'll go with Dr. Carey, and then we'll go to John. Sam, why don't you introduce yourself and let us know who you are, what you do, and why you decided to be part of the show tonight.
Oh, thank you for having me, Gabrielle. My name is Sam Abel. I am a realtor out in Massachusetts, and I'm located and I service Merrimack Valley and the greater Boston areas. I am here tonight to talk to you guys about SMART goals and have a great discussion about why it's important and how it can be beneficial to you and how you can make it your own when it comes to doing it for yourself.
Correct. Thank you. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. And Dr. Carey, you can go next.
Hi, I'm Dr. Carey Occasion. I work for the Department of Ed, as well as help companies make educational decisions. I'm so excited to be here. I have been, making goals my whole life, whether it was losing weight or getting a PhD, and really chunking them into small pieces. So I'm really excited to be here as well. Thank you so much, Gabrielle.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. And my friend, John. John, please introduce yourself quickly.
Okay, I'm John Warren. I'm an enrolled agent. I have a tax business in West Medford, just outside Boston. And enrolled agents are credentialed by the U.S. Treasury to represent taxpayers before the IRS in tax matters. It's the only federal credential that has unlimited rights to help taxpayers.
Correct.
Tax business is an unregulated industry. You're going to choose someone to prepare your tax return or go for someone for tax. Be choosy and make sure you find a credentialed professional. I certainly wouldn't want to buy a house without going to a qualified realtor like Sam. It's a lot at stake.
Yeah, a lot at stake. That's why you and I both joined IEAs, the enrolled agent. And in order for me, I remember 10 years ago when I was initiating, I decided to initiate that plan of having my EA license. I had a SMART plan. I took the time to specifically determine when and why and how I was going to get it. So without further ado, let's start with our first question. Why is it important? Why should we have a plan? Because we've been talking about it on the show, but let's just start with that question. Why should we all have a plan? Let's start with Dr. Carey.
Yeah, I was thinking about this a lot, and it helps you, if you have a why, it helps you to achieve that goal. But then I was recently thinking about how I develop project plans, and there are SMART goals in those project plans, and they really serve as a record of the work that you've accomplished. So if you think about it in a work related way, it's like you actually have a record of all the things that you've done to get to this specific goal. So that's nice. You can showcase that and showcase that work, and it's almost like a self-audit. So when I'm thinking about it from a work perspective, it's really helpful to have that record and also break it up into chunks.
Yeah, you have to have it in writing, right? Right, Sam?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, go ahead. Why should we have a plan, Sam?
So we should definitely have a plan, because the same way when we drive our cars every day from, point A to point B, we know that our plan is to take a left and then take a right. right?
Correct.
We have a guide that will take us to our destination. And when we have our goals in life, there's things that we want in life, we need to have that map, that roadmap to take us where we need to be. And without having the plan, you're just gonna, if you're trying to get to California, you might end up in Florida.
Correct.
So that's why it's so important to have a plan.
Yeah, it's very important to have a plan, because I also think of the idea of, if you don't have a plan, all of a sudden other people could have a plan for you.
Yes.
Right? We saw on the show, like, when you have a plan for your money, you tell your money what to do. Without a plan for your money will tell you what to do. And I think with life, whether it is a personal life or a career, if you don't have a plan, somebody else is gonna put their hands in your pocket and start telling you, this is where you need to go, this is what. But if you have one, you know exactly where you want to go and how you're going to get there. What about you, John? Why do you think it's important to have a plan?
Sam and Dr. Carey have already nailed it. I mean, you have to know where you are to figure out where you want to go.
Correct.
Otherwise, you're just lost.
Mhm.
And, Dr. Carey is talking about, you need to know why I'm going to go into the tax business. Why am I going into the tax business?
Mm-hmm.
If I can figure out what it is that's driving me there,
Mm-hmm.
that inner drive that I have for picking that profession, then the how and the what and all those other things are going to fall into place.
Yeah.
And so that is why you need a plan. You need a plan to get organized.
Yeah.
And to identify what it is that motivates you, and you need to identify where it is you want to go.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think people, don't you think people respect those with a plan? Like, you meet a guy, right? And we were talking about relationship before we got on, and I think everybody can relate to that. You meet a guy and he's like, Gabrielle or Dr. Carey or Sam, this is what I want to do. I'm looking to get married, on, here and there. So if he gives you a specific plan that you feel so much comfortable, right? Because you're heading somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Versus, oh, you know what, I'm not sure, I'm just hanging, I'm just relaxing, I'm just trying to feel like, I'm sure, John, you didn't do that when you met your beautiful wife, right? You had a plan, right?
Okay, so this is pretty.
You had a plan, right?
No, Wendy and I met when we were in junior high school. She's like the
wow.
only person I ever went out with, so I have no plan. I mean, we just
Happened.
Lucky,
Life
lucky
happens.
that was luck. But you know what? In general, you do have to have a plan, because some people are smart, and by smart I mean like they're very intelligent. They can decipher very quickly if you have a plan or if you don't have a plan. And then when they see you don't have a plan, they'll be like, oh, I can use that person for whatever, because they don't have a plan.
Yeah, I will say, in our relationship, the two of us working together to do something is really a lot of fun. And,
Yeah.
We spend time in our garden. It's just the two of us working on the garden. And it's talking about what we want next, what worked well, what do we want to do next year.
Yeah.
So
you're planning.
And we got to make sure we don't overwater, over fertilize. I mean, it's all communicating, working together. So you need a plan if you're going it alone, and you need a plan if you got other people around you.
Correct.
You got to be able to share.
So important.
I also, sorry.
Go ahead, Dr. Carey.
No, I just wanted to say too, for people who don't have a plan, there's also part of planning in that. There's a term called planned happenstance. Like, if you don't know what kind of job you want,
Yes.
a planned happenstance is like, okay, I'm going to take 3 actions this week to like go meet with people and do informational interviewing and that type of thing. So it's not that your plan always has to be this clear-cut destination. That's the best way, right? And that's what we're working towards. But that term planned happenstance has kind of helped me too. Like, reach out to 3 people you never would think of reaching out to for a particular job. So there are other ways of thinking about it too. But I know Gabrielle likes the real clear cut.
No, but do you think though, before we go to what is a SMART plan, because that's what the topic of tonight's show, what is a SMART plan? Do you think it's very important though to have it written? Like, I look at mine every day, to make sure that I'm on track here. What about, Sam, do you think it's important? Because, having it in your head is not, I don't think, I have a plan, it's in my head, and I think whatever it is, it should be written. Do you agree?
I 100% agree. So many thoughts go through our minds every day that when we have an idea like, oh, this would be nice, so I would love to do this, and we don't write it down, it's just a thought, right? It comes and it goes. But if you write it down, it stays a little longer because your body's involved now. And then you look at the paper and you see it. So it's like repetition in your mind, and it kind of, programs you to go towards that goal of what you wrote down.
Yeah.
So I think it is very important to have it written down.
Definitely. Well, thank you. So yes, a SMART plan. Yes, it's good to have a plan, but we want to have a SMART plan. What is a SMART plan, Dr. Carey? Can you give us what the S stands for in terms of like the SMART plan?
Yes, so the S stands for specific, and we want to have a specific goal. So I don't want to just lose weight, right? I want to lose 12 pounds by a certain date by working out 3 times a week and not eating after 8. And then I like my manifestation candle as well. However, no, but it needs to be specific for sure. Is that a good example, Gabrielle?
I think that's a good example. Like, we've had people like, going back to, we had mentioned that someone who's trying to become a doctor, right? I want to be a doctor, but what type of doctor do you want to be? What field are you going into? And also to what are you, exactly when do you want to be a doctor? So you say very specific, like very specific. So, yeah. So
and it's also really helpful to be specific for other people. Like I remember when I was getting my doctorate, being specific with my college advisors, like I want to finish this before, I want to get up to this point before my daughter is born. People will also help you if you have a plan, and they will know instead of just kind of letting them dangle and letting things, go. It's also helpful for other people and not just ourselves.
Yeah, I like the idea of being specific, right? Specific. But at the end of the day, if you have something specific, and I love the fact that you mentioned that people will know. How do they know? Is it because the M, what does the M stand for? Stands for, Sam, the M.
Well, that's for John.
John, okay, John, sorry, you had mentioned that. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, that's okay. The M is measuring. The plan has to have specific measurements. So a business plan, you need to know how many cups of coffee, how many muffins, ice cream cones, how many clients, how many haircuts are you going to do every day to get the revenue that you need to stay in business?
Correct.
And you need to decide how many cups of coffee am I going to sell before 7 a.m.? Not that many. Maybe between 8 and 9, I'm going to sell a lot, but you got to figure out, like, how many am I going to sell after 10 a.m.? How late am I going to be open? And from those specific measurements now, you can determine, like, wait, how am I marketing the right way? Am I doing the right outreach? So I know how many clients I have seen over the last 5 years. What day? In my business, April 15th is a hard deadline.
Correct.
Prepare tax returns after April 15th. No one wants an appointment after the tax deadline. I know how many I have to do. And if it's March 30th and I've done 10 returns, how many am I going to do in the next 2 weeks to reach my tax season goal?
Correct.
I need to know in February, how many am I done? Am I ahead of my schedule? Am I behind my schedule? And where am I on March 1st? It's impossible to do 100 returns in a day. That's, you might do 100 in a week. Correct. But, there's only so much time in a work day, and there are only certain times that people are available.
Correct.
Wants a 5 a.m. appointment, and no one wants a 10 p.m. appointment.
Exactly.
Appointments at certain times. So that's why having measurable goals
Correct.
what account is really all about.
Yeah, I think being the measurable goals helps other people to hold you accountable. Because if you're saying like, I want to get my PhD, I want to go to medical school, but you haven't applied for anything, you haven't submitted any application for medical school, then you definitely not going.
Yes.
I remember this one lady saying like, I want to get married. One of the measurable things that she did was she opened up a wedding account. You have to do that. Yeah.
I talked about business, but I mean, let's talk about personal finance. This is really
Correct.
serious. People retire healthy and live to be 100. They want to spend money and do things.
Correct.
They need money to be able to get through the next 30 or 40 years after they retire. No one wants to be 80 years old and still working.
No.
So that is where your measurements come in. You need to know what your savings are, what your debt is, and what do you have available. Because, when you're 20 or 25, you have enormous debt. You just finished school. You have no income. You have no saved anything. You have no wealth. Well, you're going to start your income and saving years. And then when you're 55 or 60, well, maybe you don't have any debt, but you really don't have the ability to earn tremendous income at those years. Those years have gone by. So the measurements are important to handle those curves that we see in our personal finance lives.
Correct. It's very important. So with the SMART, we have the letter A. What is being achievable or attainable? What does that mean when you have a SMART plan, Sam?
So when you have a SMART plan and something needs to be attainable or achievable, it's really looking at your life and saying, how do I, is this really going to be possible, right? Do I have the proper resources to make this happen? So if you're going to grad school, do I have my bachelor's degree, right? Is it actually attainable? And if I look at real estate, I would say, if I want to buy a house that's for $500,000, do I have a pre-approval that will allow me to obtain this home? Do I have a pre-approval for $500 or more? So you have to look at what's attainable and achievable. And if not, you might have to just go to a lower step before you can get to where you need to be.
Yeah, because I'm sure in real estate, you've heard people, oh, well, my friends just bought a house for $500,000. I would like to get something similar. And then is it attainable for you? Is it achievable for you?
Yeah.
Or, yeah. Have you seen those? Give me an example.
Yeah. And so, and when it comes to things like that, right? We have to understand that we're all different. Yeah. So what is attainable for one person is definitely not going to be attainable for another person. I know in a lot of parts of our society, they kind of approach it as a cookie cutter model, and we are not a cookie cutter model, as a whole, right? We are individuals with different lives, different situations, different experiences. Yeah. And so when you look at in the real estate world, if you look at, client A versus client B, they have different situations in hand. And so, client A cannot expect, a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom home and think that it's going to cost $200,000.
Correct.
Right? They have to look at what they have and what resources they have in order to obtain what they're looking like, what they can realistically look for. Right.
Exactly. Being attainable is very important because, again, we've had people trying to compete with other folks, they're competing with friends, competing with strangers, especially with social media. Someone doing something, going on vacation or buying a house or getting married, whatever it is the person is doing, or owning a business, and they're like, oh, I can do that too, but you don't understand. There's been years of hard work. Being able to get where the person is. Yeah.
Exactly. You need to know where you're starting from.
Correct. Do you agree? Do you all agree? You need to know where you starting from. Yeah. So the most important thing is in terms of like, you know, the competition, but the R stands for what? You know,
Relevant or realistic.
yeah.
So we need to know that the plan has to be on target to what we want to achieve.
Correct.
Business plan, I really can't have be concerned about what I do in the church choir or the community theater group, or you know, or it prevents you from getting sidetracked. And so our realistic goals, example of personal finance, is okay. I know that I need, after my Social Security, $50,000 every year to live the life I want to live after I'm 60. So the next 40 years, I need 50,000. That's 2 million. I'll start saving when I'm 55.
Oh, no, not really.
It's not realistic. You know? And if you're going to start with that plan and that's what you want, maybe you better start when you're 25.
Correct. Realistic, you know, is it important to you? Because if something's important, I was saying to you, I know someone who's been trying to finalize license. And this person tells me, oh, you know, I want to do this, I want to do that, but the work, the hard work to put towards that, it's not happening. So your realistic goal has to be, listen, you want to retire comfortably, just like Johnny's saying, you better start studying, you better start investing. You want to get your PhD, Dr. Carey, you better focus on your studies, because I was saying offline, right? Years ago when I was going to grad school, I was saying to this friend of mine, we're about the same age. I say, oh, why don't you all go? Why don't we go together? She's like, no, I cannot. And I said to her, I was like, why? Because I have too many friends. So she wasn't willing to put her friends aside for a minute because she was busy with them. And now I don't know if she ever went back, but that, you know, years later, you know, I'm all set, and perhaps she's still trying to figure it out. So realistic, you have to say, is it important to me? And if it's important to you, what are you going to do? Put all the time that you need and put all the effort that you need. That's what being smart is. You cannot be letting people, that's why going back to being specific, if you don't have a plan, you don't have a specific plan, somebody's going to tell you what to do. Yep. Whether they verbalize it or they do it with their behaviors or they do it with their actions or the way they really deter you, the deterrence, like, come over here, I need you over here, I need you over there. So at the end of the day, everything's said and done. But what about the T in SMART? Who would like to go ahead, Dr. Carey.
So the T is time bound, right? It has to be by a specific time, you know, deadline or due date. And that was definitely super helpful in my PhD, getting my PhD, and just in the work week, like really having that definitive time that you want it done by. Can you have some wiggle room at some points? Yes, but it is super helpful to have a clear deadline. Otherwise, it's, and I think you gave an example before that's like, you know, I'll send an email, I'll email you back. But a better example is like, I'll email you back by close of business, right, today. And that's just super helpful. It not only offers clarity for the person, but it helps you know what you have to do that day. So yeah, time bound is definitely very important.
Yeah, I think having a SMART plan is something that you can incorporate in every single aspect of your life. Would you agree? John, would you agree? Like, you should be able to incorporate that, because at the end of the day, it's something as simple as meeting with someone. Oh, I want to meet with you at 6 o'clock over here. That's a plan. That's a specific plan. I want to meet with you in Milton, or I want to meet with you in Dorchester. I want to meet with you in Boston at 6 o'clock. You know that we want to meet, and you know that what time it is. So that's a specific plan. But if you say, I want to meet with you, and you don't have a time, you know, the time bound, it could be at 2 o'clock in the morning, it could be at 3 o'clock in the morning, it could be any time. And guess what? Because it was so open, you cannot hold people accountable. So the last question for tonight is, if having a plan is so beneficial, why don't most people have a plan? Can we go with you, Sam? Why do you think most of your clients or most people in general don't have a plan?
I think most people don't have a plan because they're indecisive.
Mhm.
So if you have a lot of things going on and, I can do this or I can do that and I don't know what to choose, then you stay in that space where you're just indecisive, trying to figure out which direction you want to go in, and you're unable to go from that point to make that plan. And then, in the meantime, everyone's saying, hey, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? And all of their, focus on trying to make that decision, it gets dispersed into other things. And that's where they become reactive.
Correct. Do you think, John, most people, especially guys, don't have a plan because, well, I shouldn't say guys, most people in general, because guys and girls, because I do believe folks are not interested in being honest. If you don't want to be honest, if you do not want to be honest and you don't want other people to hold you accountable, you don't want to have a plan, right, John?
Yeah, people come in my office with tax problems and they haven't opened the envelopes that the IRS has been sending them for the last year or so. And I'm sitting there opening mail. Why didn't they open the envelopes? I think sometimes people don't want to have a plan or open the envelope because they don't want to deal. It's a good way of not dealing with the problem. Maybe the issue go away. Maybe I don't have to deal with it.
Correct.
Maybe I don't have to think about how much I weigh. I can still eat ice cream.
Yeah.
In large portions.
Yeah.
But if I do want to have a retired, healthy life and spend a lot of money, I probably need to watch my cholesterol, sugar, weight, and all these things that doctors tell me to keep. It doesn't just happen by accident. It doesn't always happen naturally. I mean, this is what you're giving people here is you're giving people a chance to control their destiny.
Their destiny, their lives.
And we're talking about controlling personal relationships and controlling your profession, controlling your future. That really kind of puts you behind the wheel. Yeah. No, it's a great opportunity.
I like that analogy, and you putting you behind the wheel, because so many folks are being driven, right? They're being driven and they don't want to be behind the wheel because it's so easy for them to project or dispose, or is that the word, like they transfer their responsibilities from themselves to somebody else. Because I think if you are someone who's honest, it's very easy for you to have a plan. I want to lose weight and I'm gonna do 5 days a week or 3 days a week. I'm gonna eat responsibly. I'm gonna sleep at night and all that. That's the plan. Someone tried to call you and say, listen, I want you to do X, Y, and Z. No, I have a plan. But if you don't have a plan, they kind of let you know, they do whatever they want. And also to in terms of being measured, the measurable part that John mentioned, like, how do people measure what you want to do if you don't tell them what it is? So going back to what we said, Dr. Carey, offline, I'm coming to meet with you at 6 o'clock. That's a measurable plan, but I'm coming, it's not. And you cannot hold anybody accountable if they don't have it specific. So what else do you think? Why do you think do you think like part of it is because folks don't know how to do it, Dr. Carey?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not ingrained in our culture from when we're really young to make plans. Like I remember doing like semester study plans with my students. When I learned this in my PhD, like you should really look at your whole semester and how do you plan on getting from here to there, right? Like how do you plan on finishing your book report? And I used to go over with them like, okay, you don't have the resources at home. When can you go to the library? Like before football practice, before cheerleading, before picking up your little sister. And that was very foreign to them. And I thought those skills were just so important to actually like talk about what their day looked like. So I just don't really think that people teach planning necessarily. It's something that I learned more in when I was doing life and career coaching.
Mm.
So now they have my career and academic plan for Massachusetts. So students are beginning to do that work so they can start to develop. Like, I just think about what John said, like, yes, it would be so wonderful to start your, planning for your finances at 25. Unfortunately, I feel like, I went to an urban school in Massachusetts, a product of the public school system, and I feel like I'm missing out on a lot of life skills. And so this is something that planning is just so important. And I hope that we can bring it to the forefront more and more.
Yeah.
I also think that it does get harder. Like, as a single parent, I'm less planned than before her. Before my daughter, I am sometimes scrambling, but now I have at least put together kind of what I want the next few years to look like. But before, I was really, charged up about it. So I do think some people just don't have the time, and they just go with the flow and think everything's going to be okay.
But don't you think without one though, you are more stressful? Because I think it's so easy for me to follow a program, follow directions, right? I know I have to get up and do this and do that. And I know with children, there will be happenings, like unexpected. But when you have a plan, it's so much easier for you to stay focused, right? Yeah. But if you don't have one, you're all over the place, discombobulated, like you don't know what's happening with you. And that's why it's so easy to get upset and angry with other people when they come and take a time. Because I know some people, like, they'll give the time away and then they're upset because the person came in and took it. But because you didn't have a plan, really, you didn't have a plan for that time. So that's why it was very easy for somebody else to come and get it. But I don't know.
That's really interesting. It's almost like boundaries, right? Like your plan or your boundaries. And I'm learning a lot about my boundaries, even at 42 years old. But just by setting aside that time, like, well, why did my parents leave me alone during my PhD? Because I was getting my PhD, right? So if there's specific goals that you want to achieve, it does. Yeah, you're right. It helps to set certain boundaries.
Yeah. Stay for. I don't know where you're from, Sam, because we just met. Actually, on the telephone yesterday. But I know in my culture, I'm Haitian, so in my culture, like, many times we are told not to have a plan. Don't even verbalize it. Keep your stuff on the low key, because you don't want to look arrogant. You don't want to sound boastful. If you say I remember when I was in my 20s working at the bank, I wanted to be the branch manager by the time I was a certain age, right? And I was like, oh, I want to be the branch manager, and I was pushing towards that. And I remember someone saying, like, why do you think you're gonna be there? Like, it's very certain cultures, they're saying, like, don't talk about this. Don't. So because of that, not only do people do not know how to create a plan, but they're even afraid to even have one. Like, I have one here because, like, that space is private. But if you live in a certain communal environment and you have a plan, in your room or in your dining room, and folks are coming in and out, that could be a problem. Would you agree?
Yes. So I am also Haitian. I grew up in a Haitian household and I was born here. So it's kind of like a culture clash, right? You have the American culture and then you have the Haitian culture. And one thing that I've noticed in general with, people from the Caribbean islands and as well as overseas is that our upbringings, we're really taught to, have no boundaries. And so as you get older and you learn more about yourself and you learn about boundaries and how beneficial it can be to you, and you learn about, obtaining goals. And in order for you to obtain a goal, you have to stick to your plan. And that also includes saying no to other people. When you have that in place, that causes others to look at you like, what are you doing? You're not doing what I would like you to do. And so it becomes this, this internal struggle because you're taught to always help others. Somebody needs your help, you stop what you're doing and you help them. And so that was one of the challenges for me, actually. And it's still a challenge to me today, but I've grown a lot when it comes to setting boundaries and, making sure that I stick to my goals, because if I'm saying yes to one person, I'm saying no to the goals that I set for myself. And I have to keep reminding myself of that. And that's something that, you know, people who are growing up and they have that background, it's very important for them to stick to and like to push through, because it can be a challenge, especially when a lot of people around you, like your family members, who don't see that same thing, like that, they don't have the same idea, they will kind of like go against it for a while because it's uncomfortable for them.
Correct, correct. And going back to something that you said, Dr. Carey, you know, when you have a goal and you verbalize it and you share with supported system, resources that you have around you, because offline you're saying like, I'm looking to make certain moves, and I called a few friends and they've been helping me. But in certain cultures, it's like everything is done quietly, it's secret, you know, everything's a secret. And because of that, nobody's learning from each other.
Yeah.
We're not learning from one another. You know, you go and buy a house and that house was purchased very secretly, right? You've had people come to you and say, I want to buy a house, but I don't want to tell anybody in my environment. No one from church, no one from, and because of that, someone who's sitting at church, a single person or a young married couple who's looking to do the same thing, it's so hard for them to get started because they're always starting from the ground floor, from no knowledge whatsoever. And that's why, thank you, John, I decided that to whom much is given, much is required.
Yeah.
And I've read the Bible long enough and enough to know that there's so much available for all of us. And that's why I decided to do this show. I'm doing this show because I want everyone to have an opportunity. And I do shows in Creole too. Tomorrow night, I'm gonna be on a show, S.M.A.R.T, and it's gonna be about money. We're gonna talk about money, and I go and talk to different groups in my community. Why? Because I feel like information is power, and you're learning how to create a plan, and you're learning how to create a plan for your life, for your career, and for your business, and for your family. That definitely will help not only you, but the community at large. So yeah, John, I know you've been quiet. You know, John is a quiet guy. I met John 10 years ago. And I came to John and I said, you know what? I'm trying to be an EA. I'm just getting started. And he was so helpful to me. And that's why 10 years later or 11 years later, John got me in, I mean, because I was eager to learn and eager to do. What did you do, John? You had me sign up, and you signed me up to be a director of the S.M.A.R.T Society, right? So I became a volunteer, and I kept learning and built many relationships because of that, right, John?
Yeah, and you know, we need each other.
Yeah,
we do in families, but we also need each other in a professional environment.
correct.
And so my professional relationships, my friends and my family, and this is why like a business plan can work, because I don't need to take my business plan and go home and boast about it.
Correct.
I'm putting this plan together because I want to keep track of ways that I can improve. And I want to keep an eye on other people who want to succeed.
Correct.
And when I find someone who wants to take a step forward, it's up to me to help them walk and help them get going. And that's how we work together. Well, that's no different than how your parents nurtured you. They didn't brag about it or boast about it. They were there for you. And that's how you're there for your family. So that, you know, you can...
For your friends. For your friends, for your community, for everybody around you. It's so important because there's so much that we can give to one another and how we can help each other, but we have to have the desire. And I want everybody to be successful. Yes, go ahead, John.
So, you know, my professional conduct and behaviors doesn't work when I take it home with my close family.
Correct.
I have to, you know, react and handle things differently.
Correct. Correct.
If I took my family behaviors and relationship techniques and applied it in my business, they think I was some kind of a weirdo. They don't expect that from a tax guy. So
exactly.
there are these work-life balances that are necessary to succeed in each area. And the plan actually helps me maintain my work-life balance. And this is really, really important for people now who are working from home
Correct.
They stop working.
Mm,
You've got to take control and set aside a physical time for work time.
correct.
Old days when we commuted to the office, our work time ended when we left the office.
Yeah.
We could kind of like downscale, wind down on the commute home and get geared up for being at home. When you're working from home, you know, how do you gear up, gear down, wind up, wind down? You know, you really got to be able to be organized now more than ever before because the world's crazy and hectic. And the plan takes the frenzied away. You know, Sam talked about you got to know where you are. Well, you got to calm the chaos that's around us.
Yeah.
And the plan helps it to do it because now Gabrielle and I can work on professional stuff together and have a good time.
Yeah.
Because I know someone that's in the same profession I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it all by myself.
Yes. Well, thank you, John, for being a friend, because I know during COVID, John got me a really great opportunity, which I'm very happy for. So thank you so much, all of you, for being here. You know, last week we talked about success matters, and we talked about success being your ability, your effort, and also your luck. And the luck was like just lucky, but like the people around you and the support system that you have that will help you get lucky and achieve your goals. So having a plan, every successful person that I know have a plan. They don't move through life without a plan. And the reason they do it because you need to know where you're going. As Sam said it, you know, if you're going to New York, you don't want to be heading to Florida, right? Or vice versa. You want to know where you're going. Will you fall short? Didn't we talk about that offline, Dr. Carey? Yes, you'll fall short. Sometimes you don't meet your goals, right? But guess what? Because you have a plan, you will get back on your feet and keep going. Like, well, I want to lose 10 pounds, but Christmas came, I ate a little bit too much, I didn't exercise. But guess what? By January, you're going back because you have a plan. So it's very important. So I remember, John, you mentioned that if you are by yourself as a single person, you need to have a plan. You are a single mom, you need to have a plan. But if you are a couple, you even more so, you need to have a plan because nobody can read people's minds, right? Nobody's gonna read what's on your head and what's in your head. You have to be able to verbalize it and communicate to your spouse. This is what I have in mind. This is what I want to do. Are you able to go with me? Because if someone is not planning with you and they're with you, listen, they're planning with somebody else or they don't have a plan. If they don't have a plan, maybe you could take them to an expert. Together, you can create a plan together. You can work it out together. But if they're planning with somebody else, there's something else going on, right? Because if they're not communicating with you, as I say, either they don't have it or they're planning with somebody else. So it's very important that you have a plan because having a plan, a SMART plan matters. If you don't have a SMART plan today, a plan that is specific, measurable, attainable or achievable, relevant or realistic, time sensitive, timely, you definitely don't have a plan and you need to work on something that's very smart because being smart matters. Thank you so much, my friends, for being on the show tonight. It's always great. We're doing this because we love the community and we love the people who are watching. We want them to be successful. We want them to do what they came here to do because we know they will pay it forward. We're giving to them so that they can go ahead and do and replicate this model and keep paying it forward. Thank you, ladies, and John, for being on the show. We're going offline, but please do not hang up. Thank you. Have a blessed, actually, I should say have a blessed day, everyone. Please tag, share, and make a comment. Share this live. Let your friends know that there is a community here with Let's Talk Money with Friends that's making a difference. We are making a difference. We know we are. We're getting those calls, right? But at the end of the day, we need you to help us spread the word. Let your friends know what we're doing here in Boston and throughout the country, because this is the World Wide Web, right? You can get access to this anywhere you are. Thank you so much.